Welcome back, listeners, to BizBend, where we sit down with people who have built something meaningful. Not just businesses, but versions of themselves they never knew were possible. I'm your host, Sana, and I'm bringing up a conversation today, listeners, for all of you, which I have been looking forward to, honestly. And it's the one that makes me a little uncomfortable, but in a good way. Because my guest has a story that most people would call quote unquote inspirational, but I think that word gets thrown around so much that it loses its weight. What I am more interested in is the mess behind the medals, the doubt behind the determination, and whether all that pain actually had to happen for the growth to follow. Listeners, joining me is someone who was told that he would never run or jump again after a devastating knee injury. He went on to complete over 190 obstacle races and win 16 gold medals in track and field. He donated a kidney to his sister. He watched his father pass away. And through it all, he has turned his struggles into a platform, hosting Shut Up and Grind, where he has interviewed over 300 people who have defied their own odds. But here's what I want to dig into today's listeners: storytelling. Because we live in a world where everyone's crafting their narrative on social media, in job interviews, even in therapy. And my guest has made a career out of helping people reframe their pain into power. So I want to know, when does storytelling become genuine personal development? And when does it become just a really polished performance? So, with that, listeners, let's welcome our guest, Robert Foster. Robert, welcome to Biz Blend, and I'm really glad to have you here. Really honored to have you here.
Thank you. I appreciate the opportunity.
So I want to start with the origin of the story here, Robert, before we go ahead and try to deep dive into this art of storytelling, or the world of storytelling. So you talk a lot about using your story to help others conquer self-doubt. But then I'm curious, like when you were in the thick of it, like after that knee injury, when doctors said that you would never run again. Were you thinking about that story at all, or were you just trying to survive? Like, or maybe you were just trying to process everything, that is this real or not? Is this happening with me? Or maybe kind of trying to question yourself, or maybe the higher power, or anything like, why is it happening to me?
Yeah, so to fully answer that question, I have to share a couple other small stories to really understand what my mindset was in that moment. So growing up, I'm the youngest of seven, and we were all athletes, and my parents were active as well. For whatever reason, I got the genetic short straw. So like my brothers were tall, they were muscular. My sister was tall and muscular, and for whatever reason, as a freshman in high school, I was short and skinny. So I also had a bad stutter. Like, I couldn't say mom. It'd be like, "Mum, mum, 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 mum," right? So, I'm like, "All right, so I'm short, I'm skinny, I can't talk." It's like, "What is wrong with me?" So, like, the first probably 10 years of my life, I just thought that there was something wrong with me, and that drove me. It's like, I just want to be like everyone else. I'm tired of being teased.
Yeah.
And one of the most pivotal moments, and this moment really shaped all the way to who I am now at 51. So going back to being a freshman, I went to go talk to my track coach and I asked him for the record book. And he looked at me like that was the dumbest thing I could have asked him for. He's like, "Why do you want the record book?" And I said, "Because I'm going to break the high jump record." And he says, "You don't have what it takes to be a high jumper. Why don't you go and do the hurdles?" And I was like, I don't wanna do hurdles." So let's fast forward. So so he gives me the record book, I circled the records that I want, and I just became a student of the sport because I knew at some point, said my dad and my brothers were both over 6 foot tall. So it's like, I have to grow eventually, right? So I just became a student of the sport, and I ended up breaking that record plus 4 other records, right? And again, I share that just because in any moment, in anything that anyone goes through, you have options. It's like just because the coach told me that he thought I didn't have what it took, that doesn't mean I don't have what it takes, right? So in how that relates to that injury in 2009, it was the exact same thing. So I had that knee injury, and it was a bad injury. Don't get me wrong, but the ER doctor comes in, he takes the brace off, and he's like, "Oh, you're never gonna run or jump again." And I was like, I took I took those words to heart at first because I mean, this is a doctor, right? And but then after about maybe 5 minutes, I was like, how does he know? How does he know how I am personally going to heal? No, at the time, I was 34 years old. I'm in great shape. I was like, how does he know? He walked in this room and within 15 seconds tried to put a diagnosis on my life. And going back to that track coach, I had 2 choices. I'm like, I can just listen to this guy, or I can just take matters into my own hands and just focus on making a full recovery. And that's what I chose to do.
Wow. One thing that, because now I'm having all these, barrage of thoughts and questions within me. But one thing I must say, Robert, I don't know. I mean, even at uh, like the split second, this thought came to my mind. Before I thought of like articulating what I'm going to say here. That oh, Sarah, you don't believe what you see. So maybe do not say that. But I must say, 51. I don't believe that because. I thought maybe, yeah, 30, 40s is fine, but you don't look like 51. You don't even
My
punch
God.
the kingdom. And
Nope, 51.
I don't know.
It is half almost.
Exactly, but you don't sound like, but you don't look like also because even at, in my 30s, sometimes I don't even sound like I'm like, 30 years young. Sometimes when I listen to my own, when I listen to my own voice, I feel like, why am I sounding so tired and so old? Why? And yeah, I mean, that's really amazing. I really love the energy and um, I really appreciate because for me, one like message that this part of your journey, this particular story says is that yes, it's not about disrespecting or dismissing any medical advice here, but then it also doesn't mean that there is no hope left. Like if just one person is
Mm.
giving you this verdict, I mean, yes, they are saying it maybe through their own lens of maybe from the knowledge or what they have experienced or whatever they know, but it doesn't mean the end of the world.
Yes. Yeah, agreed. It's like people have to understand that the mind controls the body, right? So I coach track and field, and I did an exercise with them. And anyone listening to this, you can do this as well. It takes a matter of seconds, but this proves that the mind controls the body. So I said to them, I said, close your eyes. So I stayed quiet for a couple seconds. I said, now I want you to picture an ice bath.
Okay.
Right? So they picturing an ice bath. As I'm like, close your eyes, like, and really, really picture this ice bath. I said, now picture getting in it. And I said, now, right now, this moment, how many of you feel cold? And all of their hands went up. Right. And that was just a matter of second. So right now, as we speak, I am 3 weeks removed from knee replacement surgery. 3 weeks. And before I even had the surgery, I was already giving myself milestones. 'Cause people are like, "Oh, you're gonna be laid up for, like, a year." I said, "Oh, no, I won't." I said, "I will not be laid up a year. Absolutely not." I said, "I'd say 90 days, I'll be back to doing 80% of the things I used to do. 90 days." I said, "6 months, I'll be competing again." And everyone's like, "Oh, you're crazy. You don't know that." I'm like, "Listen, all of these stats are based on the average person, right? Not
Mm.
everybody goes to the gym. Not everybody is a fitness trainer. Not everybody is in shape. So you can't judge my healing based on what the average person would do. Because I go to the gym and I work hard, I train hard, and I'm mentally strong. So I'm like, I'm going to defy the odds yet again. And this was my eighth surgery. And so I just had my appointment on Friday, and the goals that they had for me for the end of physical therapy, I've already hit them. And I'm 3 weeks in. And why? Because before the surgery, I already told myself,
Mhm.
this is how this is going to go. I mean, yeah, what was it painful in the beginning? Of course it was. Is it uncomfortable now? Of course it is. But I am far ahead of where anyone else in this particular physical therapy or they said I'll probably get out in record time the way I'm progressing. But it's because I told myself up front, this is how this is gonna go.
That is really, really amazing. That is really amazing, Robert. And yes, you are actually right. I mean, it does make sense because um some of my very close acquaintances, I mean, I was having a conversation with another one of my friend, and um he was talking about how uh during the pandemic, uh like, because everyone, they were going back to their homes, they were going back to their families somehow, and in some or the other way they were trying to make it possible, because almost everyone was laid off from their jobs, or there was nothing left in there. So it was like the right at the most intense moments of the pandemic back in 2020. And like, he was this
Yes.
one single person who was staying alone in the entire building. Nobody was there. I mean, I cannot imagine that situation. And then
Wow.
when I look at some of the decisions he has made, and the way he tackles all the problems, all the challenges, somewhere down the line, I really got to know that mental strength is different for different people. Like, I was going through one of the articles, and this is my own personal observation, that people who have had already, maybe, their own lived experiences of very challenging situations, or maybe they kind of consume a bit of challenging, or maybe a bit of realistic content, whether it's movies or popular media, or they're aware of what the most horrible things can be out there. They were better receptive of the pandemic, the situation of lockdown. They were able to
Mm.
digest that there are no humans. I cannot see anyone out there. It's all empty, it's all deserted. They were still able to digest it properly. So it's kind of that your mind actually is controlling your body, how your body is reacting.
Yes. Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Like during that time period, so obviously at the time I had my own gym. And of course, the gyms were shut down. Now, and a lot of people went to doing virtual classes, and they were doing them for free. But I continued charging because I was like, what you pay for is the accountability. So like the accountability isn't changing anything. We're just changing the location. So instead of being at the gym lifting weights, you're in your living room with a jug of laundry detergent, and that's it. That's your weight. But a lot of people were even saying that the workouts were actually harder during COVID because people couldn't talk to each other. Because I could just mute everybody's microphones and then just hammer them with exercise after exercise. But the people that didn't make it, it was because they let the problem consume them. And
Mm.
that's what happens in everyday life. Like I was just on the show at 1 o'clock, and I said that. I said people get stuck into this hamster wheel because they have where they are now and then they have where they want. And the path to get to what they want isn't clear. And then so they just wake up every day, it's Groundhog Day, and they're trying to survive the day. and they don't know what it is that they want. Like even going back to my rehab of any of them. Like I said, I've had 8 surgeries, so you can take any of the 8, and I gave myself goals with each one. Like when I had my shoulder done, I had it done the day before Thanksgiving in 2015, and there was a 14-mile obstacle race at the end of April, and I signed up for that race. And the surgeon, the physical therapist, they're all like, most people aren't gonna be ready. I said, "Whoa, let me stop you right there. I am not most people." Like I'm telling myself I am going to be ready by that date. So whatever you tell yourself, your body responds. And my body responded. I was able to do that race and I completed every obstacle.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And, Robert, one thing, and this is specifically relating to storytelling here because, um, I mean, I hope that, people don't get me wrong, but sometimes storytelling, because now everyone, there is this trend now that, where people almost seem to be like collecting hardships for their origin story. That, I had to overcome this, I had to overcome that. Then I'm doing so much of hard work. Like, they're building a resume of trauma. Uh, what you are describing, I mean, it sounds different because it sounds like the storytelling came after the survival, not during. So, it kind of brings me into this question like when did you first realize that what you went through wasn't just your private pain, but something that could actually be useful to other people? Like, was there a specific moment or was it gradual? Because um sharing your story, like it genuinely helps someone, then there's a difference of sharing it because you need validation. Like you are kind of, extracting some kind of sympathetic validation from people that, you went through, it meant something. Like it's a tough line to walk. So, what was that moment for you?
Yeah, so it wasn't even really related to any of the struggles that I went through. Once I realized that life is just bigger, it's on a bigger scale, was when I first started my fitness business. I started in my garage, and this was right around the time where Planet Fitness here in the States was popping up all over the place. And one of my clients, yes, so one of my clients, she goes to hand me her check for the month, and she pulls a bag and she's like, "I just want you to know." She's like, "2 minutes from my house, a brand new state of the art Planet Fitness just opened." She's like, "It's $10 a month." She's like, "I'm about to pay you 5 times the amount because you believed in me before I believed in myself." And that's where I knew this is bigger than losing weight. This is bigger than building muscle. This is bigger than your body fat percentage. It's like this is like literal personal development. And then as I got more and more versed just in personal development, in understanding the 4 major personality types and how to interact with them and what their needs are and what their stresses are, I started to expand my work to just help people on the storytelling side. Like I don't deal with the medical side because not everybody needs medical attention or a therapist. A lot of people are just stuck. So that's my target market is people who are stuck, and I can help them take the things that they went through in their life, help them reframe it, and then point them in the direction of what it is they actually want to accomplish.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that's what is a, like in terms of business, like that's what is a true value, or true disruption made, that the people who you're working with, or your clients are saying that, I even if I paid 5 times more than the other next bigger option, like a more credible brand, more maybe popular brand, because I found value in your product or service. Like you believed in me before I could believe in myself. And I think that is something that I I think, every founder or entrepreneur kind of dreams about. That this is exactly kind of, testimony I would expect, or I would work hard and strive to get.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Like people want to tell the good parts of their story, but
Mm.
it's not the good parts of your story that people identify with. Like if you're someone who's living paycheck to paycheck, you don't want to listen to a podcast about someone talking about their $1 million business. Right? You don't want to connect with that. But if that person has a better origin story where they came from nothing, they sacrificed everything,
Yeah.
they put their life into this mission and into this purpose, and then they built something that turned into $1 million business. Like that's a difference between getting up and stating your resume and actually telling a story. So once I realized that fitness was bigger than just me barking orders and making people do push-ups and squats, like this is bigger. Like giving people a belief system, giving people a path to confidence, giving people a chance to build resilience by doing like longer rounds, more intense rounds, lots of work with a little bit of rest. And they're actually becoming better versions of themselves. So now it's about purpose. It's not just about me. It's not just about me making X amount of dollars. It's about leaving an impact. Like I have people that haven't trained with me for 10 years who still inbox me and say, "I have never found a class quite like yours." And they've been away from me for 10 years. Now, I'm not saying I'm God's gift to training because I'm definitely not, but I will push people out of that comfort zone where people will say, "I need a rest," and I'm like, "I need 10 more seconds." Just getting that mindset, just like with me being in pain after surgery, and I still went to work the next day. I still went to work the day after that and sitting in a wheelchair, being on pain meds, but the job still has to get done. It's like I'm a better version of myself when I am in my element. So to build the resilience, you got to do the things that you don't want to do.
Yeah, yeah. That is also very much true, Robert. And let's talk about shut up and grind, because you have interviewed over 300 people in there. Like you have heard, you have, like, witnessed hundreds of stories about people overcoming incredible odds. And I absolutely believe that, like, from where you are coming, because uh, here I actually want to know that, do you ever worry, Robert, that we have turned struggle into currency? That the market for inspirational content, it has gotten so saturated that, we are, I mean, I don't know, like, cheapening actual hardship.
That's a solid question. So
Uh-huh.
if people are out there are consuming generic content, then yes, you can say that the personal development space is getting saturated. But like for my particular show and my particular angle, like I just believe in brutal truths. It's like I don't get on the airwaves and tell people what they want to hear. Because 9 times out of 10, what they want to hear isn't what they need to hear. So a lot of people who are stuck is self-imposed, because we live in a society now that just normalizes struggle. It's like, you're going through this because you have this. You're going through this because you have that. And it's like, and again, this is in most cases. I'm not talking about the extreme cases. In most cases, people are just they become comfortable with their struggle rather than wanting something different. Like 3 years ago, I hit a rock bottom that I never thought that I would hit, but I was there, and I did go into that dark place. But then I had to remember who I was at my core and what I want to accomplish and what I want to leave behind when my time is done on this earth. I was like, and me sitting here wallowing in self misery isn't going to get me there. And then I had to take action on the things that I had to do to become that person that I need to be to build this thing that I want that's gonna make an impact on people and in my part of the world that I can affect. But it starts with you identifying that your struggle isn't who you are. Your struggle is what you went through, right? Who you are is who you become as a result of that struggle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think I really appreciate you saying that because uh this is intention. I mean the difference is in intention. Like there's a difference between someone who's monetizing their pain and someone who is genuinely creating sustainable impact, like creating a legacy, like a true legacy. Um and if you are, let's say, I want to actually push back a little in here, Robert, because like if you are getting paid to speak about your story, if your podcast is growing, if brands want to work with you because of what you have overcome, at what point does it stop being personal development and start being a business model? And is that even a bad thing?
So that depends on the person. For me personally, I'm not driven by the business end of this. Like even when I got into fitness, it started as a hobby. Like that wasn't supposed to grow into a 5,000 square foot six figure business. Like that was a positive side effect of me just wanting to help people. And it's the same thing now. I actually start a class tomorrow in 8 weeks that's gonna piece together. I basically took my book, condensed it, and turned it into a web app that's gonna help people input what their struggles are. It's attached to an AI that's gonna completely reframe their struggle. So now some people will read that and be like, "This is total BS." Other people will read that and they'll see their struggles from a completely different angle. So for me, that's my focus. I'm gonna focus on taking those people who have turned their struggles into their identity and help them see it from a different angle. And the more people that I can help do that, then yes, that's going to help me on the business end. But I'm not like, I need to make this much money and I need to do this. Because once you take your focus off of helping people, your product will slowly start to diminish in value. Right. I've watched that happen. Like a good example is there was a kickboxing gym that I was going to. And when they first started, they were nice, they were greeting people, that like their customer service was phenomenal, top notch. But then as they grew and they grew and they grew, and then they lost that personal touch. And none of those businesses are still in business. Like they were, I think they had 3 or 4 locations and all of them are closed, because they started focusing on just building the business instead of creating genuine relationships with people that need the service.
Exactly. Exactly. I totally agree with you all because we I think that's exactly it's kind of the victim mindset or that victim mentality that it kind of lets you get completely stuck in that loop, in that cycle, um
Yes.
before you decide to take everything in control. And I mean, at least there has to be an action, a starting point at least, because in reality I think there are things which are in our control and there are some things which are not under our control, but if we are not taking any action here, then who exactly or what exactly should we blame? Because we are the problem, we are the solution here. So I totally agree with you on this. And before we wrap up, I think my final question is somewhere connected to this, because somewhere, sometimes I really feel, Robert, that because most of the conversations and interviews that I've taken on podcast, behind every um behind whether it's their own brand or the company or the work that they're doing or maybe coaching or mentoring, there is a journey of struggles. There is a journey of, or there's this fleeting moment of some life changing event happening, or maybe years and years of struggle, maybe years and years of abuse. Um, so, is it, do people need to struggle to be successful, or have we just romanticized suffering because it makes for a better story.
So that depends on how you define struggle. Because think of, like a lot of people struggle financially,
Yeah,
but think about the amount of celebrities that have turned to drugs and turned to alcoholism and turned to sex trafficking. know, uh, so like one of the biggest struggles out there is financial, and even people who are wealthy still fall victim to struggle.
exactly.
So is struggle normal? Yes, it's normal, but your response to it doesn't have to be. Like I really think I'm no better than anybody else. Like I don't walk around here proclaiming that I have it all figured out. I don't. I have my share of struggles.
Mm.
But just when my struggles arise, I do my best to get to the solution as quickly as possible. Like I make mistakes, I'm going to continue to make mistakes. Like that's human nature. Everybody does it. But if
Mhm.
you don't learn from the mistake, like if you have your car and you hit the curb and then you hit the curb again and then you hit the curb again, the problem is you. It's not the car, it's not where the curb is. At that point, the problem is you. Like recently, I've been making the same mistake, with a friend of mine, and now I'm just at the point like it's all right. This is me because I'm the one that keeps doing it. It's like this is me, so I have to stop making this mistake. But in society, it's easier to blame the thing. Like
Yeah,
it's because this happened. It's because of this person. It's because of my boss. It's because I have kids. It's because I have this. And they want to point the finger at everyone and everything except themselves. Because you can't affect what other people do, but you can affect how you respond to it.
absolutely. Absolutely. And I think that is something that speaks about inner leadership. I recently learned this word. I mean, we talk about being, and this is irrespective of our of business or personal lives. Because accountability and vulnerability, I think both of these they could be like the counterintuitive parts here, but they're so essential for someone to be a leader here because people learn from you or they try to get inspired from you. And when they see their leader like blatantly not accepting their mistakes, they would also kind of learn something from you only similarly that they would blame either the system or someone else, but
Hmm.
they wouldn't want to accept that yes, it's my mistake and I apologize for that and let me learn from it, let me rectify it.
Yes. Yeah, because people see that as weakness, but that's the ultimate strength to stand up and be like, you know what, I messed up. Like I messed up. My fault. I want to make it right. But again, it's easier to just say, "No, you did this."
Exactly, exactly. Lovely, lovely. Robert, so in the interest of time, before we wrap up, if our listeners they would like to further explore more about your journey and also more about storytelling and also listen to your podcast, Shut Up and Grind, what would be the easiest way?
Yeah, so for the podcast, I'm on all the podcast platforms. You can just search for "Shut Up and Grind." The book has the same name, and that's on Amazon. And then for socials, it's best to just go to my website, Robert B. Make sure you had to be robertbfoster.com, and my social links are on there. I'm most active on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok.
Amazing. There you go. You heard from Robert, and I'm going to make sure that all the links, the details are mentioned in the show notes. So, listeners, I invite all of you to tune in to Robert's podcast, Shut Up and Grind. And yes, as we conclude, I think this has been really a very, very rich conversation. Robert, I really appreciate you being willing to go to some of those harder places with me. And I think what I'm taking away from this is that um, storytelling is powerful. It is. But only when it is honest, only when it leaves room for contradiction, for nuance, for growth, and for the fact that we are still all, work in progress. We're learning every day.
Yes. Absolutely. Love it.
Super. And for anyone listening who's trying to figure out how to make sense of their own story, I hope, listeners, this gave you permission to be messy with it. Maybe you'll not have all the answers, but at least to question whether the the narrative you have been telling yourself is still serving you, or if it is time to write a new one. And if you want to connect with Robert, once again, go to the show notes, find them attached along with this episode on your favorite podcast platform. And thank you so much to all my listeners for tuning into BizBlend. I am Sana. Until next time, stay curious, stay critical, and I'll catch you in the next episode. Take care.